Alright guys, this is Mike, also known as Big Sarge on the forum. Gonna do a Bilstein shocks install on my truck. I'm gonna add a bunch of pictures as well. Kind of a one-man band today, so I don't have a little helper to do a video. And also it's not HD like Epic, so cut me a break. I'm gonna give you an example. Front shocks, completely gone in my opinion. I got a 2011 Ford Superduty. It's got 2,900 miles on it, so basically has nothing on it. Here's one of the front shocks. And as you can tell, it's barely opening. Here's one of the Bilsteins, 5100 series. A lot more pressure to compress. I'm going to let go of it. It's already fully extent already. So, an amazing shock. I looked online. I found them for $82.99 through 4-Wheel Parts. I got with O'Reilly's Auto Parts, which they wanted almost $100 a shock, and they price matched them for me. So, good to go. Alright. A couple things about the shocks, and there's a small modification that you have to do to put the front shocks on. The back shocks, straightforward. You use all the existing hardware, in, out, no problem whatsoever. And by the way, the rear shocks were just as bad as the front. And again, my truck has 2,900 miles. The Rancho stock shocks with the FX4 package are absolute garbage. If you have gray ones, cool. If you want to take your truck back to the dealership so they can put the same new crappy shocks on, go right ahead. Front shock. It's got these special grommets that actually fit through a large opening in the top of the shock mount, and you need to use this because in the Bilstein package you get some flat washers and you get some grommets, but they're not the same kind. They're not going to take up that center. They're not going to be able to fill that void in between that large opening for the top of the shock. So, pretty straightforward. Just take the bottom off. It'll go on top of the new shock, and you're good to go. Also, with these shocks, you're going to need to cut this zip tie off the bottom because it's pretty jammed up on the top, and then just put a new one on it and allow the actual cover to fit nicely on top of the shock. At least this is complete closed unit. This one here, the Rancho one, is just a hard plastic and it's wide open. So you can actually see the piston itself inside to get debris and water in it. So not a real good design. Okay. This is the top bolt with washer and then the top grommet. And as you can see, it also has a larger opening which allows it to fit with the male and female to close that gap. So you need to use the top one. Here's the problem. This is a captive nut that's actually held onto this top washer. You need to take a chisel and a hammer and just knock it off. Separate that nut because this nut does not fit the threads of the new shock. Then you get the new nut out of the package somewhere. Here it is. And that's what you're going to use. The problem is there's a little bit extra play in here, and so I took one of the new washers and I placed it on top of that so it spreads out the load on that washer. There's plenty of room to turn it, no problem whatsoever. And it's just an easy, straightforward bolt in. Easy as can be. And we'll install it in the truck. One more thing I failed to mention. I originally, when I put the shock on the stock shock, there's actually a 20mm nut here you can grab onto to hold the actual piston when you tighten the nut on top. I didn't know that, so I actually pulled this rubber boot down and put a pair of vice grips on the top of here, which worked fine. I didn't use a rag, but it didn't really get into it too much, into the metal, and then I just put it back up. But when I was filming and I realized, hey, what's this little hex nut on top for? It actually takes a 6mm Allen key to be able to hold it, and then you can actually torque the nut. But having said that, this nut has to be torqued the 34 foot-pounds, and that's per the instructions for an M12 nut, which this is. So I guess you could tighten it by hand, but you're going to want to torque it down. One thing is, and I'll have a picture in the video, is that you need to really crank the hell down on this thing. It actually takes these rubber bushings and probably squeezes it out 3/8 of an inch past the washers, and most of you who've installed bushings before, you normally keep the bushing even or flush with the outside of the actual washer, but you really need to crank it down to 34 foot-pounds of torque to get the torque that's required. I took a picture of the stock configuration, and that's how it is. I also measured the torque the best I could on the stock setup with the Rancho top nut, and it was 34 foot-pounds as well. So that's what it has to be torqued to, so you need to do it. That's good in theory, but I'm going to have to put a torque wrench on it, so I'm going to have to go back to the vice grips right here and then put this boot back up. New zip tie on the bottom, good to go. Truck will act like a sports car. Alright, here's the top of the shock in the front, obviously, and if you look how wadded out that top grommet is, how it passes the actual washer in there. That's just how the stock one was with the Ranchos. Now I know some of you don't believe me, so run out to your garages and have a look, but that's 34 foot-pounds of torque, exactly how the front stock ones were. So it's good to go, and as you can see on top, I just have one extra washer that was in the Bilstein package just to give equal pressure on the top. Alright, here's the rear Bilstein shocks installed. Like I said, pretty easy. They look awesome. You don't need to cut the zip tie off and adjust the rear ones. They're good to go. I'll show you the front. So between this and the sway bar I put on, and there's a thread on there that I posted pictures how to do it. It's amazing. The truck is so stable, it's unbelievable. And the sway bar is under 300 bucks. Shocks are just over 300 bucks. So for 600 bucks, you can completely change how your truck handles.